Hello beautiful writers out there. There are two things I keep reading over and over again when it comes to scripts. Since it's about the protagonist and the antagonist, I feel they are the most crucial elements any script or any story needs to have or has to have. Number one is definitely, making the protagonist way too nice. There's nothing really interesting about this character at all. And the second one, and this is what I'm going to talk about today in more detail, is the antagonist. The antagonist is often just evil for the sake of being evil. But the antagonist needs a soul as well. So today, let's look at what this soul is all about and how to create an antagonist that people feel for, even though he or she is the bad guy in all of it. All right, let's do this. Let's get the ball rolling straight away to create an interesting antagonist that we feel for. We don't have to approve of his actions, but we need to definitely feel something when it comes to this character. And in order for this to happen, you need at least two things. One is never judge your characters, and the other one, which someone, I don't even know who that really was, told me very late in my own career, but it helped me a tremendous amount. That is, the antagonist has to think he or she is the hero of the story. That this antagonist has to have the feeling that he or she is right and he or she is doing the things she's doing for the right reasons. And that's, I think, the most crucial element of setting up an antagonist. And especially an antagonist that you want us to care for. Because if we care for the antagonist, then the protagonist becomes even stronger. That's a nice, side effect of the whole thing. And also, because the fight will be much more real. And they will fight against something that is dear to the antagonist and also dear to the protagonist. So they fight or they clash about, the main conflict of things, but they do so because they are trying, to do their best from their perspective. If you just stick to that, your script will become 100% better right there, right then. Just by sticking to these 2 points, you will see an improvement in your script that is really enormous. Okay, what you need to understand is that the villain of things, the antagonist, is really just a dark shadow of the protagonist. Like they want the same thing, but for different reasons. And now comes the part where it gets interesting. You need to take care of the moral argument. The moral argument is really what makes all the difference, because that will be the engine from where, the villain starts to act, and also the protagonist will need a moral argument, but coming from a different standpoint. And this is exactly where they start to clash. That's it. They clash over, the same goal that they both want to achieve, but for different reasons. But definitely with different moral arguments. The trick with the moral argument is you need a couple of scenes, or at least one scene, where we as a viewer or a reader understand the moral argument of this very person. Bring in very early on some scene that showcases us, what these characters are all about. What is the villain about? Like, what is his real goal and why he's doing what he's doing? The more we understand the thinking behind what he's trying to reach, the villain that is, the more we feel for this character as well. Even though we don't approve his actions, he or she definitely does something that's not for, for the benefit of others, and he's probably going about things more selfish and more egoistically driven than others. So a good example, or the best I've seen in a long time, is when you look at The Walking Dead, the latest season, where basically it's all about Negan and Rick. We understand the place that Rick, the protagonist, is coming from, and his point of view and his moral argument. And we also learn about Negan's moral argument. And there is, particularly without, spoiling too much of it, but, you should definitely go and check this out. This is the best thing I've seen in so long. When, Negan has this scene where he reveals his thinking and his moral argument to the priest that has been with Rick all along. So they trapped and they sort of, they exchange moral arguments right there. And this is the scene that I'm talking about. If you have, because there he, spills his guts, so to speak, and he explains to that priest what his action is all about and why he does what he does. And two things happen. One is, the writers, they never judged this character, and it shows. They go about it very honestly. Everything he says comes from, his type of thinking, his worldview. And also, the second thing I mentioned, that this villain has to think he is the hero of the story, has been, put into practice in such a beautiful way, because that's exactly what he does. He thinks about himself as the savior. He is the one, Negan is the one saving the others. Or coming from his kind of thinking, he even, thinks that he is saving the world or humanity as it is. Once you understand that, you can also relate to his actions. And that's where, the fight they have, like Rick and Negan, this fight becomes about much more than just, the two groups, fighting of whoever will win. This is them fighting about, how will this world from there on live? How will we as human beings strive from there on? And that's beautifully, laid out, and I highly recommend it. Watch, the latest season of The Walking Dead, and you get a huge dosage of what I was just talking about. If you stick to these two things and you give, both a moral argument, that's where the beauty begins. Okay, guys, so I leave you with that. I encourage you to make the villain as strong as the protagonist. Put as much thought as you put into your protagonist, into your villain, because, the reader will very much thank you for that, because the fight and the main conflict, it will be much more than just two guys clashing. It will become, you will elevate your script to the next level. And this is also, what makes a story deep. Because then, if we understand the two sides, and we are forced to decide on which side we are on, this really deepens the whole thing to a degree that is really speaking to us as human beings. So, there you go. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe and all this good stuff. There's a bunch of, free stuff down there that you can download. There's a link in the description below. Visit my website. And, if you want to support me, go to my website and download a bunch of worksheets and ebooks that I created. Thanks, guys. See you in the next one. And right on.